Welcome to Data Studio 101. My name is Abhinav and I am here to help you get started, become really comfortable with visualizing data, creating really cool looking dashboards, reports, and gaining insight from your data using Google's Data Studio. The goal of this course is to make you feel empowered to start creating your reports using Data Studio. If you're new to the channel or haven't watched the first episode of this series, do check it out. The link will be in the description box below. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and share the channel with as many learners as possible. We have set up an online discussion forum for you. The link is right here. Do check it out and learn better together. In the first episode of this series, we talked about what is Data Studio, how to get to Data Studio, and the different options that are available on the website when you go to datastudio.google.com. In this episode, we will discuss a little more about connecting to a dataset, the different connectors that you have available. We will be using Google Sheet as a data source for the purpose of this course. The link to the Google Sheet that's being used throughout this course is available in the description box below. Please feel free to use that data source for your reports while you are learning Data Studio. And as promised in the introduction, there will be a try this out section at the very end of this video, which will allow you to use the skills you learn in this episode and apply them in practice while you are building your Data Studio reports. So keep watching this video till the end to learn what's the exercise in the try this out section. So here's the dataset that we are going to use. The link to this Google Sheet is also in the description. So please feel free to make a copy and just use this data for the reports that you are trying to create. So the data is fairly simple. It has columns such as region, which has values such as Sub-Saharan Africa, Europe. So the dataset is fairly simple. We have columns such as region, which has values such as Europe, Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, country, which is basically the countries in these regions, the item type, whether the product that was being sold, whether it was meat, cereal, household, cosmetics, the sales channel, if the transaction happened online versus offline, the order priority, whether it was a low priority order, medium priority order, high priority order, then order date, order ID, ship date, the number of units that were sold as part of the order ID, the unit price, unit cost, total revenue, and total cost of the shipment. So basically the only identifier that we have in this dataset is order ID. If you were to count the number of orders that have been placed in a given time period, count the distinct values of order ID. Now let's go to Data Studio and see how we can connect this data to the Data Studio report. Once I log into Data Studio, all I have to do is click on blank report. As soon as I click on that, it will show me the data connectors panel, as we saw in the previous episode as well. Here you have multiple Google connectors available, but there are third-party connectors as well. For the purpose of this course though, I'm going to select Google Sheet as my connector. So I click on Google Sheet and it automatically identifies that there is a sheet called Data Studio 101 sample data, which is stored on my Google Drive. So it's associated to my Google account. All you have to do in this case is click on that spreadsheet name, click on the worksheet that you want to use for your report. In this case, we have only one worksheet or tab that's available in the Google Sheet. You have multiple options here. You can select to use the first row as headers, which is true in our case. And you can also select whether you want to include hidden fields or filtered cells. In this case, I have done nothing on that front, so I'll just leave it as is. All you need to do after that is hit the add button. Now, depending on the size of the dataset, this data may take some time to load. So at this point, you have connected to the data source, and as you can see, the canvas has a random chart that pops up, which has the count of records for each region. Once the dataset is connected, there are multiple things that you can do. The very first thing I'm going to do in this case is name my report. As you can see, you just double click on the untitled report because the report is not initially named, and you start typing. For this course, I'm naming it Data Studio 101. So this is just about naming the report, but you may add more data sources to this report and eventually start getting confused as to what data source is connected to which chart on your report. Let's talk about the most important piece in Data Studio, which is this right-hand side panel. I like to call it the magic panel because everything that happens in Data Studio happens in this section. So throughout this course, I'm going to be calling this as the magic panel.
there's a section called Data Source, which tells me that I have added Data Studio 101, which was the name of my Google Sheet. But I can hit the pencil icon to edit my data source. As soon as this panel opens up, I'm able to just double click on the name of the data source and start typing any name that I want to provide to this data source so that I remember it whenever I'm adding multiple data sources to the same report. This section really shows you all the fields that are available in your data. It shows you name of the field, the type of the field, and if there has been any aggregation already done on the field or not. Any field that is a type number has already been summed. So the default aggregation in this case is sum, but you can click on this and change it to whatever you want. If at any point you want to edit this connection, you can just hit the edit connection icon and you can again go back to selecting a different worksheet that you may have, or in the case of a different connector, there could be other sources of data within the same project, within the same spreadsheet that you may want to connect to. So now that our data is added, let's talk about some data sharing and resource management. There are multiple options available here, just as you would see in a Google Doc or a Google Sheet. Similarly, there's a resource option up top, which you can click and see an option called Manage Added Data Sources. It tells you what's the type of the data. In this case, the type of our dataset is embedded, which basically means that this dataset is local to the current report. In case I want to use the same data across all the reports that I'm going to create in the future, all I have to do is hit Make Reusable. And in case you are trying to share this report with others who are also going to act as editors, you can check or uncheck this box, Dataset Type Changes to Reusable. So this Manage Data Sources section allows me to add more data sources, and they do not necessarily have to be Google Sheets. I can now go ahead and add a BigQuery dataset if I want to. At the same time, it also shares information about how many charts are using this particular dataset. Now, if I go back to the home page and go to data sources, if I were to share this data source, I can just click on this three-dot menu, hit the share button, add the email of anyone who I want to share it with, and allow them to either edit it or just view the dataset. So far from the previous episode, we have learned what is Data Studio, and in this episode, we focused on connecting to a dataset. Now the real journey starts. We are going to start creating charts using the dataset that we just connected. If you have not checked the dataset yet, please use the link in the description box below. The next episode is going to be very exciting because we will start with creating our first chart on Data Studio, which is going to make us all very happy when we see this blank canvas filled up with colorful charts that are going to provide us some great insights about the data. This is the very first time even I am playing with this data, so it's going to be a learning experience for me as well.
Alright, it's time for Try This Out section. For this episode, I want you to try connecting to a different data connector that's not Google Sheet, if available, or you can also try to connect to a different Google Sheet with different data and see how the process goes. This will be a good revision for you to get warmed up for the exercises to come. So do try it out and let me know how it goes. If you have any issues, please use the online discussion forum to discuss with your peers or other learners. Thank you so much for watching. That is the end of episode 2. I hope you enjoyed learning connecting to a dataset. That is it for episode 2 of Data Studio 101. I hope you enjoyed learning Data Studio along with me and your fellow learners. Please leave your feedback in the comments section below here on YouTube and use the online discussion forum to ask me any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with as many students as possible to build this amazing community where we can all learn better together.